You are strapped into a metal cage, flipped upside down underwater. However, this isn't punishment, it's your mandatory ticket to work on a North Sea rig. What happens inside that dunker? The North Sea is one of the most brutal offshore environments on the planet. Freezing water, 30-foot swells, gale force winds without warning. The only way in or out is by helicopter. Unprotected, a person loses consciousness in minutes. This is the commute, and it carries very real documented risk. If you'd asked anyone in Aberdeen about North Sea helicopter safety back in 1985, they would have told you the system was working well enough. They had no idea. Then, on November 6, 1986, a Boeing Chinook BV-234 went down 2 miles short of Sumber Airport in Shetland. 45 people died. It remains the deadliest civilian helicopter crash in European history. The sole survivor was the captain. He described the chaos of a capsized, sinking cabin, darkness, cold, bodies, no training, no muscle memory, nothing but raw panic. He got out by luck more than anything else. That was only round one. The wreckage hadn't even been fully recovered before the industry began asking uncomfortable questions. How had so many people failed to escape a cabin that was intact enough for one man to survive? The answer was as simple as it was damning. They had never been trained for it. Nobody had ever put them in a submerged, inverted cabin and made them find the exit by feel. The assumption had been that survival instinct would be enough. It wasn't. The Norwegian Oil and Gas Association had actually seen this coming. Back in 1980, they issued mandatory safety guidelines covering helicopter underwater escape. But compliance varied. Rigor varied. The difference between a guideline on paper and a reflex built into muscle memory is enormous, and the industry had not yet closed that gap. That inability to escape a survivable crash, that specific preventable failure, would come back to haunt operators and regulators for decades. But that's getting ahead of the story. On August 23, 2013, CHC Scotia Flight 23R, a Super Puma EC-225, crashed into the sea near Sumber. 4 people dead, multiple injured. The helicopter inverted on impact, just as they almost always do. The cabin filled with water, and once again, the difference between who got out and who didn't came down to one thing: whether their body already knew what to do before their mind had time to process what was happening. The clock was already ticking. The industry just couldn't hear it yet. GSK stands for Grunnleggende Sikkerhetskurs, Basic Safety Course in Norwegian. And if you want to set foot on a North Sea facility, you will complete it, full stop. No GSK certificate means no offshore access. There are no exceptions. It doesn't matter if you're a roughneck who's been drilling for 20 years, a catering assistant on your first rotation, or an engineer visiting for a single day. Everyone holds the same ticket, or no one goes. The course covers 4 core areas. Firefighting, because a rig fire in a remote offshore environment is a catastrophic event with no fire brigade coming to help. First aid, because the nearest hospital can be an hour away by helicopter on a good day. Sea survival, covering life rafts, hypothermia management, signaling, and the realities of floating in the North Sea waiting for rescue. And then there is the centerpiece, the one that every single person talks about afterward: helicopter underwater escape training. The legal backbone of all of this is Norwegian Oil and Gas Guideline 002. First established in 1980, it has been revised 24 times through 2022. 24 revisions. That number tells you something important. This isn't a document that was written once and filed. It is a living standard, updated every time the industry learns something new from an incident, a near miss, or an improvement in training technology. Every revision makes the requirement more rigorous, more specific, more grounded in what actually happens when a helicopter goes into the sea. And the certification isn't permanent. Recertification is required every 4 years. This is not a one-time box tick that workers collect and forget. The industry is explicit about why. Muscle memory degrades without reinforcement, equipment changes, and the psychological conditioning that makes training effective fades over time. 4 years is the window. Miss it, and your offshore access is revoked until you go back through the pool. The structure of GSK reflects a clear philosophy. The goal is not to inform workers that helicopters can crash. They already know that. The goal is to build automatic, physical responses that function under extreme stress, in the dark, underwater, inverted, with cold water filling the cabin around them. That is a very different objective, and it requires a very different kind of training. HUET stands for Helicopter Underwater Escape Training. The Dunker is the tool used to deliver it. A mock helicopter cabin, replicating the interior dimensions and seat configuration of aircraft actually used on North Sea routes, mounted on a rotating hydraulic arm over a purpose-built pool. It looks industrial. It is industrial. Workers are strapped into seats with full harnesses, the same type used in the real aircraft. Windows are closed. The rig is lowered into the water, and then the arm rotates. 180 degrees. The cabin inverts completely, fully submerged, filling with water as it turns. You are now upside down, underwater, strapped in a flooded metal box. The task sounds simple when you describe it in a warm, dry room. Wait for the rotation to stop. Locate the exit using touch alone, not sight, touch. Release the harness, push out the window or door, surface. 4 steps. But here's the detail that everyone missed at the time, and that the training is specifically designed to fix. The moment you invert underwater, your brain loses its reference points entirely. The vestibular system, the mechanism that tells you which way is up, is immediately overwhelmed. Your instinct is to fight the harness, fight the water, fight everything. That instinct will kill you. The cabin continues to move while you fight it. You lose your reference point for the exit. You run out of air before the rotation stops. The training doesn't try to eliminate that panic response. It can't. What it does instead is build a competing reflex, one practiced enough to run faster than the fear. Wait, locate, release, push, surface. The sequence has to be so deeply embedded that your hands execute it while your mind is still screaming. Multiple runs are completed over the course of the training. The first gives workers a chance to experience the inversion with full visibility and instructor guidance. Subsequent runs progressively reduce the support. By the end, you are doing this in conditions designed to replicate the worst-case scenario. Because on the North Sea, the worst case has happened before, and it will happen again. Once the basic runs are complete, the training escalates. Advanced HUET runs are conducted in blacked-out conditions. Cabin lighting is cut entirely. This simulates a night ditching or a loss of power on impact, both realistic in a real crash. In the dark, underwater, inverted, the task is identical. But the cognitive load is significantly higher. There is no visual reference at all. Every action must be executed by feel. This is where STAS comes in. STAS stands for Short-Term Air Supply System. It is a small breathing device clipped directly to the life jacket, designed to provide a brief supply of breathable air while submerged. Not minutes, seconds. Enough to complete the escape sequence without blacking out. Workers are trained to locate it by feel while inverted, because in a real ditching, your hands will be shaking, the water will be cold, and you will not be able to see it. The combination of darkness and STAS dependency is deliberate. It forces workers to operate at the absolute edge of what their training has built. If the reflex is there, it runs. If it isn't, the instructors and safety divers intervene, but the gap in the training becomes very visible very fast. Some advanced runs also incorporate simulated debris or restricted exits, a window requiring more force to open, a seat positioned closer to an obstruction. This reflects the reality that a crash doesn't deliver a clean, cooperative environment. The cabin may be damaged, the exit may be partially blocked. The training has to prepare workers for that version of events, not just the ideal one. Every worker who goes through advanced HUET carries that experience into every flight afterward. The runs feel extreme in the pool. They feel like preparation the moment you're sitting in a real helicopter over open water. The goal throughout is the same: muscle memory. Not courage, not calm, muscle memory. Your hands must find the exit even when your mind is screaming at you to do something else. The UETU, Underwater Escape Training Unit, opened on February 27, 2018 in Somerset, England. It cost £15 million, and it represents the most advanced helicopter escape training facility in the world. The facility trains up to 1,200 aircrew and offshore workers every single year. The scale matters. This isn't a converted leisure pool with a borrowed dunker rig. It is a purpose-built training environment engineered from the ground up for a single function: preparing people to survive a helicopter ditching. The equipment inside reflects decades of hard-won knowledge. Full-scale mock helicopter cabins replicate the exact interior dimensions of aircraft used on North Sea routes. Hydraulic rotating arms deliver smooth, controlled inversions at realistic speed. Underwater lighting rigs allow instructors to observe every movement during every run. Observation windows are positioned throughout the pool, giving the training team a complete view from the moment the cabin enters the water. And somehow, it gets worse, because the instructors aren't just watching from the surface. Safety divers are positioned underwater, trained to intervene within seconds if a worker becomes incapacitated. The margin for error is managed down to near zero. The training is stressful by design. The safety net is invisible but always present. The UETU represents the pinnacle of a decades-long evolution. The early days of helicopter underwater escape training were improvised, ad hoc pool drills, modified industrial equipment, instructors working with whatever was available. The lessons from Sumburg in 1986, from subsequent incidents throughout the 90s and 2000s, and from the 2013 Super Puma crash all fed into the design brief for what a purpose-built facility needed to deliver. Every offshore worker who trains there carries a narrow window before their next scheduled rotation offshore, and the clock had already started. The first time you go under, almost nobody is calm. Instructors who have run thousands of Hewitt sessions describe the response as close to universal. The body fights the harness, fights the water, fights the inversion. The hands grab for things that aren't there. The breath comes in short, sharp bursts before submersion. The mind goes somewhere primal. There's a reason this story is still talked about today, because the training doesn't try to suppress that response. It names it, explains it, and then systematically dismantles its power over behavior. Instructors describe what they do as controlled stress inoculation. The idea is that you learn, through repeated experience, that panic doesn't kill you, but acting on panic does. The panic itself becomes familiar, and familiar things are less powerful. Repetition is the mechanism. The first run is overwhelming. The second is intense. The third is manageable. By the fourth, the sequence wait, locate, release, push, surface is beginning to run on its own track, faster than the fear response that is still there but no longer in control. The cognitive override is being built in real time, through the body, not through instruction. Workers consistently report that the training changes how they experience every helicopter flight afterward. Not that they become fearless. Nobody who understands the North Sea is fearless about flying over it. But they describe a qualitative shift in their internal state. Not dread, readiness. They know what to do. Their hands know what to do. And that knowledge sits in the body differently than any briefing document or safety video ever could. The psychological shift is the real product of Hewitt. The dunker is the delivery mechanism, but what it manufactures is a specific kind of person. Someone who, in the worst possible moment, does not become a victim waiting to be rescued. They become an active participant in their own survival. That transformation is what the £15 million facility in Somerset, the Norwegian guideline revised 24 times, and every training pool across the North Sea basin exists to produce. The 2013 Super Puma crash near Sumburg provides the clearest real-world test case. Some survivors credited their Hewitt training explicitly and directly with their ability to exit the inverted cabin. In the chaos of a real ditching, cold water, disorientation, shock, the train sequence ran. Hands found exits, harnesses released. People surfaced who might not have without the training. But the picture isn't entirely clean. aviation safety investigators writing in the aftermath of the 2013 crash noted plainly that North Sea helicopter incidents continue to expose poor progress in overall safety. The argument was that training alone is not enough without continued technical improvements to the aircraft themselves and stricter operational limits around weather and flight conditions. The survivors who credited Hewitt were right, and that critique was also right. Both things are true simultaneously. The industry tension is real and ongoing. Operators push for more flights, the economics of offshore production demand it. Safety advocates push for better aircraft, stricter weather limits, and improved ditching survivability built into the machines themselves rather than trained into the passengers. These are not always compatible pressures. Hewitt sits in a specific position within this system. It is a last line of defense. It is designed to function when everything else has already failed, when the aircraft has gone in, when the cabin is inverted, when the water is inside. At that point, training is all that's left. And at that point, training demonstrably makes a difference. But the honest framing matters. Training saves lives at the margins. It does not make helicopters crash-proof. It does not compensate for poorly maintained aircraft, for flights dispatched into dangerous weather, or for systemic safety culture failures at the operator level. Hewitt is one layer of a system that needs all its layers functioning. The Dunker is essential. It is not sufficient. GSK certificate in hand, the training is done, but the flight is real. The standard pre-flight briefing covers ditching procedures, life jacket operation, and exit locations. For a new offshore worker, it is all familiar. The same sequence practiced in the pool, now delivered in the cabin of an actual helicopter over actual water. Because when the helicopter lifts off and the coastline disappears behind you and there is nothing below but gray North Sea water, the training clicks into place differently. It is no longer theoretical. The exits you memorized are the exits beside you. The harness you practiced releasing is the one across your chest. Experienced workers describe a specific quality of quiet confidence that develops over time. Not bravado, not indifference to the risk, something more considered. I know what to do if this goes wrong. That sentence, spoken by workers across the North Sea basin, is the product of every pool run, every blacked-out inversion, every STAS drill, every instructor standing underwater watching your hands find the exit. The risk never fully disappears, but the training shifts the equation in a way that is measurable and real. That confidence is the entire point of the system. The goal was never to make offshore workers fearless. Fear is appropriate. Fear is a signal that the body is taking the situation seriously. The goal was to make sure that fear doesn't win. That when the moment comes, if it comes, the trained response runs faster and cleaner than the panic response. That the hands know what to do even when the mind is overwhelmed. The GSK certificate doesn't guarantee survival. Nothing does. But it changes the odds. And on the North Sea, changing the odds is the difference between a statistic and a person who comes home. Training doesn't make the water warmer. It makes you harder to drown. Subscribe for more, or the next video is already on screen.